Did you know you can take any of your fingerstyle patterns that are in 4/4 time and just play them in 3/4? You don't have to change anything. You don't have to change a thing. Check it out. Metronome's going in 3/4 time. I'm going to play in 4/4 time. It's kind of weird, right? Because they kind of get off, but they also get on, right? So it works. Check it out. Now, is that the recommended way of doing it? Of playing in 3/4 time with fingerstyle guitar? Well, that's up to you and how you want to phrase things. But today I want to talk about how to convert your 4/4 patterns into waltz time by checking out one of the best to ever do it, and that's Mississippi John Hurt's tune, Farther Along. What's up, my name is Kyle Orla, and welcome to another fingerstyle guitar tutorial here on YouTube. Of course, there's PDFs, solo plugins over on my Patreon page. And on that note, the other day I was on the Acoustic Guitars Patreon page, Acoustic Guitar Magazine's Patreon page, giving a workshop in fingerstyle guitar. And this question came up in the live stream: how do you take these 4/4 patterns and play them in 3/4? And on the spot, I just thought of Mississippi John Hurt's Farther Along because I recently played it as a duo with a friend of mine and friend of the channel, Kelly Smith. Check out Kelly Smith music. She's amazing. And I thought, the more I thought about it, that's a pretty good, intro into playing a 3/4 blues, right? There are others, of course, there's tons. But Mississippi John Hurt in specific is a great study because he has a few, even on this one compilation, that's not compilation, his last sessions, right? The last sessions he did. There's also Waiting for You, right? That's another great example of how to play fingerstyle in 3/4. Funny enough, on that same album, he does Goodnight Irene in 4/4, which that's typically in 3/4. So what that tells me is this: once you have an understanding of the basic mechanics in playing fingerstyle guitar, you can easily switch between 3/4 and 4/4 without even thinking about it, right? So today, let's kind of set up some basic parameters in how to play in 4/4 so that you have all the information you need to know to easily just kind of take a tune, whether you want to take a 4/4 tune and make it in 3/4, or just take some patterns that you already kind of have an understanding with and just be able to play them in a 3/4 time feel. So while it's true there are a ton of great blues waltzes, let's be honest, most of them are going to be in 4/4 time, right? So what are the basic patterns of playing in 4/4 time? Well, I don't really like to think in patterns. We've talked about this before. I think of it more as just like an agreement, right? What are the basic agreements of playing fingerstyle guitar? Well, here's the first one. Your thumb's typically going to play bass stuff, right? And these are our bass strings, these bottom 3 strings. And your fingers are left to play the melody strings on the upper 3 strings. And it's either going to be of one or two things. You're either going to play with your thumb or against your thumb. So if we check out our thumb, we've got our thumb moving on the low string. If you're grabbing a G chord, we typically skip that 5th string, go to the 4th string. So something like this. It doesn't mean I can't grab the 5th string. In fact, that sounds great. But your basic motion is going to be from 6 to 4. You can always just kind of add in that color on the 5th string. It's really cool, especially if you add hammer-ons, right? And you open up a whole nother world. But kind of start with just this motion. Get used to that. If I move to a C chord, you notice now my root's on the 5th string, and I'm not skipping a string anymore because then I would run into the melody strings, right? We've kind of given ourselves this parameter that these 3 strings now are going to be for our melody, right? So let's talk a little bit about how to play melody real quick. So if we go back to this G chord, right, we've got 6 to 4. I'm either going to pinch with my thumb, or I'm going to stagger against my thumb. I don't know if I made stagger up or not. Honestly, Tony Policastro might have made that one up. I don't know. It's been too long. I've adopted it anyways. Somebody made that one up. It's good. I don't know. It's been too long. Who can tell? But something to remember, there are no rules, right? This is just ideas and basic parameters. The more you have an understanding of this basic foundation, the more you have to push and pull from, like in the example of moving into 3/4 time. So let's check this out, how to take these patterns or ideas into 3/4 time. So going from 4/4 to 3/4, logic says you just chop off a note, right? Because 4/4 means 4 notes per measure, 4 quarter notes. 3/4 means 3 quarter notes per measure. So all we have to do is take one away, right? yes and no. Remember, music is all about feel, right? And the feel, it gets a little bit weird if you just cut out a random note, especially if it was like the first note, right? You're missing like the root. Even the second note feels a little weird. Check this out. Here's a 4/4 pattern. Now if I went to the 3/4 and I just took out a note, it doesn't really feel, it feels disjointed, doesn't it? Right? I chopped out the second note. It felt kind of weird, right? Now remember, the intention for a lot of our favorite music was to match a dance. Waltz time is supposed to match the waltz. What does it feel like to waltz, right? What does that feel like? And it doesn't feel like the thing I just played, right? The waltz has a heavy step and 2 light steps. If you've never waltzed in your life, well, you better go get out to the dance floor and feel that, because it definitely helps your musicianship if you can match it with what it's supposed to feel like on the dance floor, right? This is super helpful and definitely transformed the way I play music, getting into certain dances. So if you ever waltz in your life, it's heavy, light, light. And how can we kind of transfer that to the guitar? Well, here's what I do. Replace that double low string you did with 2 higher strings. So you got 3 open, open, like this. That feels a lot more like the dance step. The same idea of low, high, high that kind of matches the dance step will work on any other chord. You just have to know what the low note is and what the high note is. So think of your C chord. Our low note is on the 5th string, and our high note is on the 4th string. There are higher notes, right? But those are our melody strings, right? So think of those basic parameters. So you have the low note here and the high note here. And we can do the same idea of low, high, high, but now on a C chord. Now, there are other kinds of waltzes, right? I kind of think of this as like a 3-2 kind of waltz, where it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There are other waltzes that I don't know, I just call it like a 3-1 waltz. It's common in Cajun music. We have like this 3-1, 3-1. So to accent that 3, to make the 3 feel heavy, I might put the root now on beat 3 and beat 1. So I'm doubling my root. But that just puts heavier weight. The root is the heaviest weighted feeling thing. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now that feels really different. But it still works. Of course, it's the mixing and matching of all these ideas that give you the most variety that we love in folk music. But don't take my word for it. Let's check out Mississippi John Hurt's version of Farther Along to see where all these ideas start to lie in the field. So Farther Along, there's actually a lot. It's actually kind of a lot to learn from this tune. A few different waltz feels going on here. We got the 3-1 feel. We got that 2-3 feel. We switch chords, and we get to introduce some ideas of like basic hammer-ons and pull-offs, all wrapped up in this one tune. Also, it's just a great melody. So let's check out a little bit here. You can always dive in deeper over on the Patreon, of course. So right off the bat, we actually use a few different of these waltz feels. Did you catch that? So we have the 3-1 feel. We go back to that 2-3 feel, which is kind of the basic. It's kind of the basic feel of the song. Is that like kind of waltz time, not the Cajun waltz, more of that ballroom waltz or whatever you want to think about it like. That 2-3 feel. But he mixes both. He mixes both in there. Now moving along here, we're gonna see a really cool John Hurt idea. He does this all the time. We have to get to the 5th fret, and instead of reaching, he just shifts his hand. But the outcome is actually a really cool little bass line. Right? Your ear hears this, which is really nice, right? But that's just an effect of doing what's easy. So sometimes what's easy gives you the coolest stuff. The next part, we move to a G chord. We have this nice little pull-off. Because the melody kind of dies, we have to do something interesting, right? Otherwise, it's just, what are you going to do, right? And he doesn't do too much, right? Just this nice little bass line. And again, we're moving from the 6th to the 5th string, and we can use that 5th string as kind of a color, right? But the foundational pattern is going from 6, 5, 5, or 6, 4, 4, 4, 4. Back to the basic melody again. And here's a slight variation. Oh, so what was a singular lick, right? This was by itself before. We could add a melody note. You could even add another one. Right? You give yourself options because you know what to pull from. And to finish it off here, which is nice. Again, utilizing open strings to harmonize, also shifting to harmonize bass notes. When you're listening to it with just your ears, without your, without seeing the fretboard with your mind's eye, which you start to develop. You start to develop that the more you learn this stuff by ear. But if you just listen to it, you just hear all these beautiful counter bass melodies below that makes it sound like there's two guitar players happening. And the beauty of John Hurt's style is it's stuff that's just easily laid out under your hand, whether it's using open strings or shifting up to grab a higher fret. His hand's almost always in this 3-fret form, so it's a really good thing to learn about. So if you want to check out this tab without me talking and giving you all the concepts, over the examples, you should go over to the Patreon page. There's a slow play along, there's the PDF, there's everything you need to know, right? So check that out. There's always another video coming up next, so give this one some time, some 4/4 time, because this is my only 3/4 time video, and we will see you there. Thanks, everybody.